So hello everyone, it's Nick. I'm finally back, and today I'm gonna talk about my next project that I'm wanting to start, and it's Pokemon Real Life Conversion, RLC is what I'm calling it at the moment. The concept about it is that me and probably a lot of you have created OCs or OTs or whatever you want to call them, original characters slash trainers and fanfics around them. And most cases we do have some self-insertion in the characters to some degree at least. It's either something we're proud, something that reminds of ourselves, or something that we want to be. But I was thinking, and been thinking for several years, what would the story be if we said, okay, it's my real life, 100% me, but just put me in the Pokemon world. And that's what I'm gonna figure out with this story. And don't worry, it will turn into a Let's Play story, and I'll get to explaining that. But the rules, or like notes, if you want to follow along for this story, it's, as said, your real life. It should be 100% or as close to 100% your real life as possible. So number one, which I like to call biology, which is your age, height, weight, gender, anything that has to do with you. You yourself as a person should be 100% exactly you. If you're sporty in RLC. If you're nerdy or more academic, you're academic. You're not the opposite. Like me, I'm not a sporty guy. So I will not, my RLC character is not sporty. It's not allowed to be sporty. Then after that is social interactions, you can say, friends, family, if you had any or several partners, stuff like that. Also, easy point, 100% realistic. If you have parents living together, you have that in RLC. If you have siblings or not, you have that, not the opposite. Partners, this is not a fanfic in that sense that you can put in a character based on a crush. If you had a partner, you had a partner. If you didn't, you don't. Easy as that. But when I thought about this, I thought, okay, this is easy, this is 100% easy. No. The slogan will always be as realistic as possible, and the second line to that I feel is the more extravagant or out there crazy your story is, the more evidence you have to bring. If you just say, oh, it's a normal family life, a normal 9-to-5 job, we'll go by it. Nobody will check you on the facts. But if you're going out there, I'm a master, I'm a champion, I'm this, and this, great, I met this legend, fought this legend, apocalyptic style battle, then you need to provide evidence that something similar has happened to you in the real world. But I can also see that people might not want to give out this personal information. And that's what makes this hard, and I'm a bit more loose on the rules, so like age. Say your age, or at least something that's nearby, so it doesn't affect your journey so much, but you don't give out your birth date. Is that not what you want to give out? If you don't want to give out your family, any part of the story where you're with your family, just a short line, I was home for 2 months on a break together with my family, and then don't go into the details. Like, you can avoid the facts. Just don't change them in order to hide. Is my opinion, if you're following my RLC. Like, if you want to do some similar project, okay, but then it's not RLC if you don't follow this. Home region is a bit more on the harder side. I would say easily, if you're from a country that has a Pokemon region based on it, easy solution. Japan, France, UK, Spain, and to a degree US, you're locked. But I can see that all of US packed into either Alola or Unova, and Unova is like a big divider among fans. I can see that being a bit problematic, but if you decide to choose something that isn't Unova, for example, if you're from the US, I think all the other countries you're locked because your countries aren't that massive compared to the region you're based on. Just as I said, stay realistic, keep to the climate. Like me, I'm from Sweden, so I will have to choose something tempered. Most likely Galar, because the shape and the climate and everything is so similar to Sweden, even if I would love to be from Kanto or Sinnoh. But for example, I can't choose Hoenn or Alola that are tropical. Like, it wouldn't fit with me being from Sweden, especially not the northern part of Sweden. Like, no, it's not realistic. As I said, keep it realistic to the degree you can. And then next point is like dreams and interests. I said it falls a bit into the biology that if you were a sporty person, you're sporty in RLC. If you were more of a academics or computer or whatever, you're that in RLC. Your interest doesn't like change to that degree. Like, I would not aim for a sports career in RLC because I never did in real life. It's a bit of a gray zone when we talk about Pokemon stories. What would we do with Pokemon? And this is the second point, the two problems I've figured out about this RLC concept. The first is, as I said, the real life internet. How much information do you want to give out to people? And I understand some people might not want to give out too much. And the second is, it's so hard to predict because Pokemon is such a different world. A lot of things we can say are the same, as said, like biology, family relations, but after that, so much changes if you're a person on a Pokemon trainer or on a Pokemon trainer journey, because that would change so much, because most of us, I guess, are from Western countries and we go to school for a long time and we need to go to those schools to aim for higher careers. So if we aim for higher careers, how do you do that in the Pokemon world? And yes, we love Pokemon now in real life when it's a game. It's an escapist to play the game, to create stories, whatever. What would it be in the Pokemon world? Would our love be as big in there? Or would it be lessened because Pokemon is pretty much the same as animals? For the people in the Pokemon world, the Pokemon aren't special, at least not on the same fantastical fantasy side that it is for us here in the real world. And for example, me, I'm gonna get to that point. I've never been too competitive in my life, so I most likely wouldn't be in RLC. But if Pokemon were real, would I have aimed with my love for Pokemon towards a more Pokemon focused career? It's really hard to predict, and that's why I've changed it from 100% real life to as realistic as possible. And they said, the grander your story and ideas are, the more evidence for your real life having been that grand, that you've been in crazy big situations, even for our world, in order to have that level of craziness in the Pokemon world. So that's basic biology, social relationships, and where you're from. Like, those are more or less easy to do. Then we come to the journey, and I feel like the journey itself is how you've journeyed through Pokemon. This idea mainly came from me, I think originally back in 2017 or 2018, when I was following an artist named Taz Saints on DeviantArt. I think she has moved on to Tumblr for most of the part right now. I'm gonna try and pull up. Here is her X account with a link to the Tumblr, but there still exists her old DeviantArt page. And like, it was this type of storytelling that I really fell in love with, and the picture I had opened, I'm just gonna show it quickly to not devalue her work. She started in Johto, then you see it's quite a big leap, or at least artist-wise, it's a quite big leap, seemingly in age, between what I think is Johto and then Kanto, which I think would have been her second journey. Then it seems to be a decently big leap in age again when you go to Hoenn, and then even further once again when she goes to Sinnoh. This picture is from the time where she was in Sinnoh. So that was the base idea for the journey, to have a real life counterpart to how old you are when you start different parts of your journey. And then it's been all these like slow shorts from the Pokemon anime that which just seems so realistic. It's a Haxorus, but it's just two grandparents living in the mountain taking care of or watching over their grandkid for the weekend or whatever it was in that story. This one also, Blossom's journey, when she takes the Nidoran. I'm silencing the videos because I don't have any headphones on, so it would be mad. And this is just, it's not super grand. It's two mad Pokemon and some hobby trainer, not like expert veteran trainers, just comes out and defends their village. It's just small stories, small life, real life. And we can at the same time, I also saw here original post on Reddit by Blue Lightning 888. If you lived in the Pokemon world, how would your life likely be? And it seems to be similar to the concept I'm working about, that many people say you would be an NPC. Larry working a slag day job. 2-3 Pokemon at most and an NPC. People say Pokemon training, and said many people go against this. It's some person that is deleted, thankfully, so we don't have to out them. Either I'd be a field researcher illustrating Pokemon for research books, or I'd be working from home traveling in as an animator. And Smergol, and like, yeah, okay, animator, illustrator, but field research, that's like, that is on the extravagant side, because we as regular people feel like, oh, that was be so utopian views of it, fantastical, big, it would be so great. But and then don't realize, in a realistic sense, field research, it would be rainy, storms, you would have to stay outdoors for long periods of time without any like normal industrial countries commodities and things that makes life easy to say. And I think a lot of people that dream about this stuff, and like especially in a Pokemon concept about being researchers, big trainers, they don't think about the massive work it has to be. And therefore I feel like you would also yourself have to, you need evidence to support that you are a person that would put in this kind of work. As I said, the Pokemon world, Pokemon being real, it might change some of us if it was that way, to be extravagant and like we would put in the effort compared to say competitive things in real life that don't interest us. But I would say no, being a master trainer, a champion trainer, a famous trainer, or a famous breeder, owning I think one of those Reddit posts, I didn't show it was, but it was like owning a ranch, a field of Mareeps and Yamper, and a Yamper or two to herd them, probably an old body Raichu. Like, no, like, okay, if you want that, give evidence that you have experience in mass animal care. Because owning a ranch, being a farmer, that's extremely lot of work that many, say, big city people don't know what that kind of work entails. How much work that would be. It would not be a utopian easy job to do just because it's Pokemon. So I will say, stay realistic. It like flows into dreams and to future career, what you've been doing. Like, yes, your work could be more Pokemon focused in a Pokemon world, but keep it realistic. Same with Pokemon trainer, master trainer. Like me, you could be a decent trainer with good knowledge overall about the games, but I feel like the Pokemon competitions in a realistic world would be more akin to the anime or other competitions in the real world where there is tournaments between a lot of trainers, and not just defeat the Elite Four and the champion and you become champion. And so with Pokemon training being pretty much the equality to football on that popularity level, it would also be that level of competition in a Pokemon world. So if you want to say you're a master, you're a champion, I would say then you need to provide evidence that you've been on a top level in something competitive, either Pokemon in real life, any of the video games tournaments, or any sport. And I would say on top level, on like state or national level, not just small town level competitive. For that to be true. And as they also talk about it in Scarlet and Violet, I think that only a few % actually defeat all 8 gyms. Only a few % even get to face the Elite Four, statistically. For a story like this, I would say, yeah, you can say that you get the badges, that you do the stuff, but if you're high up in the tournament, famous master trainer level, no. Then you need real life evidence for that. That's more or less future. And I was about to talk about the journey, but I fell into like the story of why I'm doing this. It's already 60 minutes. I'm dragging over, but I'll get to it more in the next part. But I said the journey should be real life. You go in the order of the regions as you did in real life, if it was anime or games, whatever. You go to them in real life, and you go to them when you realize they exist, or when you did in real life, which pretty much means the releases of the games for a lot of us older players. Because, for example, Unova or Kalos was not out when I was 10 years old. So I couldn't go to Kalos or Unova if I wanted to, as my first start at 10 years old. I get into the start as well, but I would say you'd never start before 10. And Galar was released 2019 when I was 24 years old, so I can't go in RLC. I'm 24 years old when I go to Galar. No older, no younger, no nothing. At that point I go to it. The only adaptation I would accept is if you started playing games before you're 10. Then you can have a few catch-up years to catch up with all the games you played before 10 until you catch up, and then start going, which for me would be mostly Gen 1 through 3 or 4 will be quick, and then it will start catching up to real life time again. But if you took a break, like if you skipped the 3DS games and came back to Switch, then in RLC, those years, 2013 till 2019, you were not a Pokemon trainer. You are not allowed to like use that time. You need to figure out what were you doing at that time, the interval in between. And then we come to the most fun part, and hopefully the last part that won't take too long in this video. What are your Pokemon? And this is a hard question as well. Because in the games, yeah, there are some Pokemon we remember. Many people like Birdkeeper Toby and M&J TV have created like, these were my Pokemon games when I was young. I started with a Sceptile and solo with Sceptile and all that. And to some degree, yeah, you will base what Pokemon you used on the games. Like, if you're like me, you love Tyranitar, but you know in heart, I've never used Tyranitar in the games at all. So in this story, I can't actually really use Tyranitar, at least not when I'm young. Now, when I'm older, if I catch a Tyranitar, then it will be like that in RLC as well. So keep it realistic, but you can have some adaptation, because We usually play several playthroughs, but in RLC and a realistic setting, you usually just travel each region fully once, and then maybe a few short returns to it, but not completely full journeys. And some Pokemon, like the starters in the games, they are locked to one. Easy, like the anime, the starters, you can say you found them out in the wild, but keep it realistic. And that especially comes to things like shiny Pokemon and competitive Pokemon, because breeding, Masuda methods and space holes in Ultra games, that's not realistic. Like, you wouldn't breed thousand upon thousand of Pokemon and just throw away hundreds of them. You wouldn't do that as a realistic person. So I would say any full odds shiny or competitive Pokemon, good for you, include them. But when it comes to anything that you have used special methods for, Masuda method, breeding, combo hatching, ultra space holes, anything like that to get a certain Pokemon you want, no. Be really restrictive with using them, because as I said, those methods are strictly game methods. They are not realistic methods that you would do in real life. And legendaries as well. Yeah, all of us can catch legendaries in the game, but I would like to feel like the legendaries are similar to how they are in the Pokemon Adventure manga and similar to the anime. They are great beings out there that we don't catch, we don't use to that degree. You can include them like, oh, I think I saw Zapdos fly by, if you catch a Zapdos in your game. But keep it down, please, because it wouldn't be realistic if everybody ran around with Entei's like they do in the competitive scene. Or whatever legendary that is popular at the time. So, but what do we do about the Pokemon themselves, like nature, personality, EVs, abilities? Because as I said, if you are a real life trainer, you wouldn't go around looking for the specific or breeding the perfect Pokemon. You would most likely maybe do something of a poll and use the Pokédex check. Okay, this one is slightly better. But most of the time you would just catch the first Pokemon you saw and play with it. All of us did as kids, and that's what you do realistically when you make the story. And you do, say, Kanto when you're 10, you have to really think, how would 10-year-old me act? Not how would 29-year-old me act around the Pokemon. What would I catch? What would I do at that age? And I think that's what's interesting. But it's hard to make out when did everything happen. I recently did mass migration on my old Pokemon to Pokemon Home and found a lot of old Pokemon that I could say I used or have, and just take their natures and their strengths, but I wouldn't remember when did I catch them, what did I do with them. I just don't remember. So I feel like the best way to determine what nature your Pokemon would have, what gender, what level, when did it evolve, which Pokemon did you use when, is to do a playthrough. And that's the plan for the story. The final punchline. I'm gonna do a RLC, if we call it so, playthrough, where I start with, for me, becomes Kanto, Fire Red, go on and continue to play other games, and I use the Pokemon that I find in the games, their genders, their nature, their IVs, EVs, when they evolve, what I do with them, what gym battles I use which Pokemon in. All that in game, while I try to keep it realistic. What would 10-year-old Niklas catch? What would I do? What happened in real life that I can reflect in the Pokemon journey? But that is what I'm gonna use the game for, to determine the Pokemon more closely, and over this, over the story, over the episodes of me playing the game. I will most likely stream me playing the games, upload those videos to a VOD channel, and then do a more compressed video maybe for each region or each age gap here on the main channel. So I hope many people will enjoy that kind of story. Maybe tag along, try and do a RLC for you. What would be realistic for you? And as I said, punchline. Keep it as realistic as possible, and the more grand your stuff is, the more evidence you have to pull through for people to actually believe that it is realistic for you. But as I said, we'll talk it over more nightly, closely knit over the episode and go into more detail on each topic, and we can discuss what's realistic, what's not. This is just a decently short video to just get the idea rolling, to get the ball rolling, to get the idea out there that this is going to start, this is happening. So I hope you will go on this journey with me, and I'll see you in the next one.